options, which is why we put on workshops such as this one for this evening. And then throughout the workshop, we will be talking about various topics. I'm also going to share with you what the schedule for today is, but I want to give a chance for my other PATH counselors to introduce themselves as well.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Charlene Ajamang, and I am one of the other PATH counselors. And I'm really excited to spend this time with you and share some of the information that we've prepared.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Sandy DiCarlo. I'm also a PATH counselor. And again, we are happy to share this information with you and hope to continue conversations after tonight. Oh, Danica, you're mute.
Thank you. And I also wanted to introduce our two guest speakers for this evening. So Charlotte, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Charlotte Finnicle. I am a senior at St. Petersburg College, and I'm a former intern with PATH, so I'm just grateful to be back and presenting with them.
Thank you. And Mrs. Vigu.
Hello, everybody. I'm Judith Vigu. I'm the Director for Advanced Studies with Pinellas County Schools, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit this evening about the rigorous course offerings that we have and potential pathways that your students might be thinking about pursuing as they go on to 10th grade and beyond. Thank you.
And with that being stated, I'm going to actually show you all what the schedule for today is. I'm going to share my screen. So this evening, we're going to discuss why discussing college as a high school freshman is important, as well as those education options, including admissions requirements, the cost, and resources. As Ms. Vigu said, we're going to discuss rigorous curriculum and the options that are available to high school students. We're going to share some tips for ninth graders, and then we're going to tell you a little bit more about the PATH program. So with that being said, I'm actually going to turn it over to Charlotte to tell us a little bit more about the importance of discussing college as a high school freshman and some things that you want to consider as you go through high school.
Yeah, hi everyone. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Perfect. All right, can everyone see that? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about discussing college in ninth grade. So there's a lot to unpack here, but one of the first things I want you all to understand as we're going into this is that ninth grade college prep is not about having everything figured out. You're not supposed to leave this session saying, okay, I need to figure out what school I'm going to, what I'll apply for, and what I'm going to do right off the bat. Instead, ninth grade college prep is about building good habits that will help you throughout high school and exploring your possibilities for what will happen after high school. So let's start looking at what that looks like. So there are certain discussions you'll want to have while you consider different opportunities after high school. So some of the discussions you'll want to talk about are high school. So what are you currently doing? What study habits do you have? What classes are you taking? And other things such as that. Career interests. What are things that you might want to explore as you continue through your high school career? College options. Where can you go? What can you study? And then self-advocacy. So how can you better advocate for your goals? So we're going to break down each of these. Let's start with building good habits in high school. So this will be really important because not only will it help your grades, but it'll also help you as a person as you prepare for higher education. So first of all, there's a lot of different ways we can do that, but you can discover what study habits work for you. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to studying. So for example, for me, I like to do my schoolwork early in the morning, but there are plenty of people who are like, that will not work for me. I do not want to do that. So it's important to figure out what works for you. Maybe you like to do your homework as soon as you get home. Maybe you like to do it later in the evening. It's ultimately about figuring out what works for you and sticking to it. In a similar vein, building time management skills. This will also help a lot in college too, because you'll be a step ahead of everyone else if you take the time to develop these important skills that will help you all throughout high school and college. And lastly, it's important to remember to take your grades seriously. Your GPA from 9th grade to 12th grade will be used for college admissions. So the grades you're getting now until 12th grade will be seen by a college admissions officer. And speaking of grades, it's also important to consider rigorous courses. I'm not going to talk about it too much since Judith is on the call and she will be talking about it more later on, but that's another important discussion you'll want to have and consider as you continue through high school. Next, we're going to talk about extracurricular activities. So extracurricular activities are great for your resume and for your application. And these can take a lot of different forms. It can be things like volunteering. I want to mention too that volunteering is very important if you want to get the Bright Future Scholarship. I believe you need 100 hours for the top scholarship. And so volunteering can take in a lot of different forms. I know Pinellas County has a great volunteer program. You can volunteer at historical museums, animal shelters, botanical gardens. It might be good to do a volunteer opportunity that caters to your interests. So if you want to work in the medical field, you could volunteer at a hospital. And then there are also school and community clubs. This is a great way, again, to show involvement as you go throughout high school. Your school probably has a lot of different clubs you could join. It's worth looking through and considering what you might enjoy. However, it's also worth considering expanding your horizons. For example, I'm very involved in my college's student government, but before I got involved, I would have never considered student government. It just wasn't on my radar, but I ended up loving it. So consider ways you can expand your horizons. And if there's a specific thing you want to do, but your school doesn't offer it, consider what your community offers. There's a lot of community theater, different instrument lessons, and plenty of other ways you can get involved in your community as well. And those will also reflect well on your college applications. And lastly, relevant jobs. Not everyone has the luxury of not working. So if you are working, it might help to find jobs that kind of fit into what you would like to do someday. So let's say you want to be a school teacher. You could potentially work at an after-school program, or you could consider working at a summer camp over the summer. However, if you aren't able to find a relevant job, you can also consider the ways your jobs would add to those soft skills that you can use on your college applications. So for example, leadership skills. Maybe you don't want to go into elementary education, but you become a camp counselor so you can get organizational skills and leadership skills. There are still ways that you can make your work relevant to what you want to do in college. And now moving on to discussing careers. There are plenty of ways to figure out what kind of career you would like to have, and we're going to dive into 4 of them. First of all, the internet is an amazing source. After I finish this presentation, I will send you all a link to something called the Occupational Outlook Handbook, and that is a database of every job that exists. And so you can basically look at that, explore different fields, and figure out, what are the salaries? Is this job growing? And figure out if it's something you would be interested in. And secondly, consider talking with people. I know that sounds so simple, but everyone does something for a living, and it's always interesting to talk to them. What did they do? What did they used to do in the past? And what did they like about their jobs? What don't they like about their jobs? And from there, kind of consider how that fits into you and like what you might enjoy about those types of jobs. Because you might have never considered being involved in a certain career, but then after talking with someone, you might think, oh, that was a better fit than I realized. In a similar vein, it's important to reflect. And now that sounds like very lighthearted and not super important, but it's actually very important. It's important to think about, what do you enjoy doing? What are you good at? Consider journaling or just having a personal self-reflection time, or even just use your notes app and write down, these are the things I'm good at. These are the things I enjoy. What overlaps? What can I do for a career? And that, again, this is all just about thinking about it. And lastly, gain experiences. So we talked about clubs and volunteering and relevant work. That's not just for your college application, that's also for your personal self-discovery. So it's super important to get involved in those things so that you can realize what you like and what you don't like. So for example, let's say you worked at a landscaping company for 4 years because you wanted to be a manager. And then you realize, oh, you know what? I actually really don't like that. You can think, oh, I wasted 4 years, or you can think, oh, I was able to test this out and realize I didn't like it. So you learned more about yourself. All right, so moving on from careers to college, there are plenty of different ways to gain post-secondary education, which is just education after high school. There are 3 different forms we'll talk about specifically right now. First, we have technical college. Technical college is the shortest form of post-secondary education, with programs as short as 3 to as long as 14 months. They're very good for hands-on fields. If you like to work with your hands and have very concrete work, this is perfect for you. And some of the programs include things like welding, cosmetology, and surgical technology. So if you notice, there's not one specific field. You can work anywhere from health to construction to beauty. It's ultimately just about how long you want to be in college and what specific type of work you'd like to do. Next, we have community college. So community college is very similar to technical college in that it has a workforce focus. However, it's a bit longer with typically 2 to 3 years. And some of the programs there will be slightly different. They include things such as dental hygiene, environmental science, and actually music industry and recording arts is something we have at St. Petersburg College. It's a really cool program if that's something that's of interest to you. And then lastly, we have university. If you've ever seen a movie where they have a typical college experience, it is most likely set at a university. It's a 4-year experience with a wide variety of majors and programs, and some of those programs can include things such as accounting, elementary education, and things like pre-med or pre-medical studies. So if you're interested in something that takes a lot of time, like being a lawyer or a doctor or another 6 or 8-year program, you would want to start out with a 4-year bachelor's degree at a university. So that's important to keep in mind as well. So now that you understand the different types of colleges, how would you pick a college? There's a lot of different factors you can consider. So first of all, location. Do you want to stay close to home? Do you want to commute to school? What other factors about location are significant to you? Like, do you want to be close to the ocean? Do you want to be somewhere warm? Those are all important things to consider. Cost of attendance is also very important. Not every college is going to have the same price. In fact, many of them have drastically different prices. So it's always important to be aware of that. Next, living situation. Kind of circles back to location. Do you want to be living with your parents and commuting to college? Do you want to live on campus? Do you want to live on campus 1 year and then start commuting from your own apartment? Again, different colleges have different rules about the living situation, so it's worth considering and looking into those as well when you're looking at schools. Then program length. Again, with the different forms of college, you have to think, do I want to just finish, do I want to do a quick workforce preparatory program that maybe takes a year, or could I spend 6 or 8 years in school if I wanted to? That it all varies by the person. There's no right answer to the program length, but it's ultimately worth exploring and figuring out for yourself. And then majors offered. Obviously, if you want to study something like forestry, I don't believe St. Petersburg College has any forestry, but I know somewhere like University of Florida would have a forestry program. So those are also worth considering too. You want to make sure the school you're going to has your program. And then lastly, GPA and test scores of admitted students. This one, I really want to emphasize, you guys already have a huge advantage because you can look up the GPA and test scores of admitted students, and that can be your benchmark as you continue through high school. So let's say you got a 3.5 this semester and your dream school asks that you have a 3.7. You know you have that goal you can aim for as you finish up your high school years. So overall, the number one thing I would recommend is start making a list of colleges that seem like a good fit. You don't have to commit to them. You don't have to apply for them. They wouldn't even take your application right now. So, but just consider the options that are available to you right now. And lastly, self-advocacy. This can seem like a different topic, but it's actually connected to what we're talking about. Self-advocacy is about making a difference for yourself. And we're going to talk about ways that applies to your situation. So first of all, speaking up about your interests. We talked about being able to talk to different people who might have a job that you're interested in. So ultimately, if they're talking about something that you're interested in and you want to ask them a couple questions about it, it's ultimately up to you to ask them about it. They're not a mind reader. They don't know whether or not you're interested in that field. And honestly, people love talking about their interests. So make sure you don't miss that opportunity to talk to them about what they do, how they like it, and things like that. And next, ask about opportunities. A great example of this is basically, let's say you're at your guidance counselors and they are talking about next year's classes, but they haven't brought up AP classes, but it's something you want to try. It's not that they don't want you to take AP classes. It could be that they forgot to mention it. In those cases, self-advocacy is important so that you can say, hey, I'm really interested in taking AP classes. What can I do to get there? And then lastly, actively seek out ways to grow. We talked about extracurriculars, volunteer work, and relevant employment. So in a similar vein, it's really important to seek out those ways to grow. And that all circles back to self-advocacy, ultimately voicing what your goals and what your needs are and asking people how you can get there. Because ultimately, you know what you want the most. So it's up to you to communicate that.
Choose ADP.
Okay, so that concludes our presentation. And this is now a time for questions. So if you want, if the path counselors permit it, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. However, you can also type in your questions in the chat at any time. So let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Let's see if I press escape.
You weren't on Yahoo today trying to access ADP for work?
Let's see. So do we have any questions?
I don't see that there are any in the chat. We can give our audience this opportunity. Oh, wait, I do see a hand up. Hold on one second. Let me identify. Okay, it looks like Ariana, Miss Goldberg.
Hi, I was just curious if it's possible for me to take dual enrollment classes my sophomore year of high school.
That's an awesome question, and we will probably have Judith Vigu answer that more. She'll have a whole presentation on it, and you'll be able to ask her after her presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? No, I think that we're good for now. Thank you so much, Charlotte. That was great information.
Yes, thank you, Charlotte. So now we will be having Sandy discuss a little bit more about college admissions processes, costs, and things like that. I did see that there was a question that popped up in the chat. Sandy, if you want to answer that question now, or if you want to start, whichever one works for you.
Sure. We're going to talk a little bit about this, Kim, so if you can hold on. I'm going to cover this in my presentation, and then if you have more details, I'll be happy to share with you too. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Oops. Wrong screen, I apologize. Hold on one second. There's always technical issues. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, again, so sorry. Need a little background music so I can figure out my screen here. Okay, I think we are good. So sorry about that. Okay, so some of the information I'm going to share is similar to what Charlotte shared, but we're going to go into a little more detail. Before I get started, I just want to thank you all for coming tonight, whether you're a student or you're a parent. This is a real advantage to start thinking about this and get this information as high school freshmen. All of us path counselors are out in the high schools now, and we're talking to students about what they're going to do after graduation. And the seniors that we talk to that are just now starting to think about it, it's pretty stressful. I think you're going to realize at the end of this presentation that there is an awful lot that is put into your college planning or planning for whatever it is you want to do after high school. So the sooner you start thinking about it and the sooner you look into all your options, the smoother that senior year is going to be. So that's why we're here, and we are presenting to actually as young as 8th graders to be able to really start thinking about this so your decisions are definitive and it's a smooth transition as you exit high school and go on to your future plans. So basically, we just want to share that the admissions process does start much longer before you graduate high school. Understanding what type of school you want to go to, where you want to go to, and assessing all those questions that Charlotte just posed is really the first step before you take action and start to plan. So again, being here tonight is a great advantage to just plant those seeds so you can follow through with it. So as Charlotte pointed out, most of your education options fall under the category of a vocational or a technical school, a community college, or in Florida, a lot of them are called state colleges, universities, but some students also opt to enlist in the armed forces or perhaps just go straight to work. So these are the 5 typical options that we come across most often when students are completing high school. So each one of these decisions has a lot of thought put into it and can result in different opportunities. So we want to talk about that. Tonight, we're going to focus mostly on the education options. My suggestion, if you are looking at enlistment in the armed forces, just like we are referring you to resources to really look at the details for your education options, you want to do the same. If you're looking at the armed forces, you want to do research. You want to talk to people that have experienced it. You want to talk to recruiters as far as what they're offering. And you want to make that decision wisely as well. If you're thinking that you're just going to go straight to work, again, you want to do your research. What type of employment can you get with just a high school diploma? And how will that serve you in the future? So again, researching all your options is key at this point in this grade level. So Charlotte shared a little bit. For vocational and technical school, they offer certifications, which is specialized training in a very specific field. Trainings can last as short as 3 months, maybe a year and a half. Some programs include an apprenticeship, so it may go a little over 2 years, but it's very skills specific. Locally, we have Pinellas Technical College. That's probably the most popular vocational and technical school. So if you are looking at getting some sort of hands-on training, then you want to look at a vocational and technical school. You need to know exactly what skill you're looking to get into in order to apply to it, because there are no general vocational programs. It's going to teach you a specific skill. Programs include things like automotive technology. You want to be a mechanic. Maybe you want to work for a certain car brand and provide roadside service. I know a young man that went through the auto tech program and now he's working for Mercedes as roadside service. Cosmetology, surgical technology, maybe an LPN in the healthcare. So again, you want to decide exactly what you're going to do. And many students will start with a vocational certification because they can then earn a competitive hourly wage, and then they may continue on to different types of education as well. So your first step out of high school is definitely doesn't mean that's all you're going to be doing in a lifetime. There are a lot of credentials that are now stackable, and you'll start with one step and then go on for others. So vocational and technical education has a wide variety of options for you in a very specific skill field. Now, community colleges or state colleges offer, the majority of students going there are looking for 2-year degrees or associate's degrees. Now, they are commonly known as 2-year degrees, but it really depends on how many classes you're taking at a time. Typically, an associate's degree is about 20 classes. There are different types of associate's degrees offered through a state college. Now, an Associate of Arts degree is about a 20 class load degree that is designed to prepare you to go on for higher education. So think of it as the first half of a bachelor's degree. And whether a student stays at the state school, many state schools at this point, state colleges, are offering bachelor's degrees as well. But even a bachelor's degree at a community college or a state college requires that you complete an Associate of Arts degree before you articulate into that junior and senior year for the bachelor's degree. Other students decide to start at a community college and then transferred to a university. And in that, if you decide to follow that path, you would get your Associate of Arts degree first. Think of it as year 1 and year 2, and then you could transfer to the university of your choice for year 3 and year 4. Now, an Associate of Science degree is a little bit different. It almost has that technical education included in it. So it's an associate's degree that is designed to prepare you to go right into the workforce. Not all Associate of Science or AS degrees will transfer into a university. It really is designed to get you out into the workforce. St. Petersburg College is probably the most recognizable community college locally, and they offer Associate of Science degrees in things like environmental science technology. Charlotte mentioned the MIRA program, which is music industry and recording arts. There are many different healthcare Associate of Science degrees, such as RN, radiography, respiratory care, even a veterinary care program at SPC. So if you're looking for a shorter term degree that is designed to prepare you to go right into the workforce, an Associate of Science degree may be what you're looking for. Now, community colleges also offer certificates, which are just a small group of classes. It could be anywhere from 6 to 10 classes that focus on a very particular subject. And that's also a nice way to start, enter the workforce, and then continue on with your education. So these are all ways to get you started with your education, but they lead to into different directions. Now, the university is, again, 4-year university. Most universities offer on-campus housing, so students can live at the school that they're attending. It's more of an all-inclusive type college experience. So students may live on campus or they may commute back and forth. Typically, a university is going to offer a wider variety of programs than a state college or a community college. Majority of students at universities are seeking bachelor degrees, which are typically 4-year degrees if you're a full-time student. Most universities also offer graduate programs, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, and things like that. So sometimes a student will stay at a university and continue to go on for higher education. But again, you could get a bachelor's degree at a university and then transfer to another university for that graduate program. So you have a lot of choices with that. Each one of those types of educational institutions have different admission requirements. And again, this is great information to have as a high school freshman, because everything you do from now on may open more doors for you and give you more opportunities when you decide upon graduation where you're going to go. With that vocational school, the requirements are basically you have to have your high school diploma, so you have to complete your education in high school. But as I said before, you also have to know what is that specific career interest, because they really don't allow you to transfer from a plumbing program to a carpentry program to a culinary arts program. They're very concentrated and they're very specific. So doing career research ahead of time and planning out exactly what career field you want to go into is required before you start in a vocational program. At the state college or community college, again, a high school diploma is required. You have to complete your high school requirements. And then they usually want some sort of indication on your academic level in reading, writing, and math. Now, most community colleges offer a test. It's called the PERT test, and that can be taken at the school. Also, you may be taking PERT tests for different reasons at the high school. So they may look at a PERT test to see what your reading, writing, and math score is. I'm sure you all realize that everybody that goes in and takes a class doesn't come out with that exact same level of expertise in a class. So at the state college level or community college level, They just want to make sure that they place you in the classes that you're going to succeed in. So they look at this PERT test to just see, okay, what's a great class for you to start with to make sure that you're going to be academically successful. Now, if you're taking SATs or ACTs while you're in high school, those test scores may actually substitute the PERT test. So when you're thinking of taking college classes, and Ms. Vigu is going to touch on dual enrollment, and those can be part of this discussion as well. They may look at that PERT test or SAT or ACT test, again, just to make sure you are placed in a class where you will be successful. Now, universities have a longer list as far as requirements. First of all, they're all universities are going to look at your high school GPA. Now, most students will apply to the university the summer following their junior year, which means the only grades that you have to show that university would be your freshman, your sophomore, and your junior grades. So all of the grades that you're achieving right now as a freshman are part of that high school GPA. You're only going to have 3 years to show them if you want to apply nice and early, which is a strong recommendation if you're applying to a university. So you need to take your grades seriously right from the start. Most of the universities, all of the universities in the state of Florida, are also going to look at an ACT or SAT test score. Again, an advantage of attending a workshop like this as a freshman means you've got lots of time to take the tests and retake the tests. You'll have opportunities while you're in high school to be able to take these tests for free. Outside of high school, you do need to register with the testing agency. Both ACT and SAT tests are given by outside agencies, and it costs about $50 each time you take the test. So you'll want to plan on taking your test probably next year and then set a benchmark for maybe which areas you want to do more prep in, and give yourself time to test and retest, and maybe even try both types of tests to get that optimum test score. Those test scores are going to be used for university admission, but also there are a lot of scholarship opportunities that are tied to those tests as well. So you want to take them seriously. Extracurricular activities. Again, Charlotte did a great job of just discussing those things that you do outside of class, whether it's within school or in your community or in your church or maybe a group that you belong to. Start writing them down now. I suggest having a journal or a notebook or even a drawer at home to keep track of all those things, because what's fresh in your mind now as a freshman may be a distant memory when you're a junior. So you want to keep track of everything. And then when it comes time to applying to universities or applying to scholarships, you've got this list of things that you can go back and remind yourself that you've done to be able to put on those applications. A personal resume is something that you'll put together a little bit later, but again, you're going to use that journal or whatever it is that you're keeping track of everything you're doing to be able to add to that personal resume. A personal resume really doesn't have anything to do with employment. I mean, if you are working, you'll want to list it, but it's more about you as a person and your interests and the activities that you've pursued. You want to stand out from the crowd. Your test scores and your GPA only tell certain things about you, but if you're part of yearbook, or you volunteer at a pet shelter, or you're active with a youth group, that really says a lot more about you individually than just your GPA and your test score. Recommendation letters. If you, and I think that's misspelled, I'll have to go back. If you connect with a certain person at school, or again, maybe with an organization, you want to remember that. You know, maybe your English teacher as a freshman, you and that teacher just really had a good connection, and they challenged you, and they saw the potential that you have. There's nothing wrong with asking that person, would you mind writing me a recommendation letter for my applications later in college? Colleges would be really impressed to hear from your freshman or your sophomore teacher or guidance counselor, because even at this age, you really have certain qualities that stand out and set you, away from the crowd. So don't be shy with asking for those letters. They can be very generic, and they don't have to be dated, but it's nice to hear what other people perceive about you. Also know that if you are looking at a university for certain things, maybe you're looking at an art program or a music program or a sports program, they may also require some sort of audition or portfolio or video. So just know that some universities may look at collectively a lot of different things that basically show who you are and how you can add to that university. So I want to talk a little bit about costs. And again, this presentation and this workshop tonight is really geared to focus on you being a freshman. There's a lot of details that go into each one of these areas, but as you go through the years, you'll learn more details about all of these things. I didn't want to go out there and give you specific costs to all the schools. I just want you to understand that costs can definitely be a factor, and there are a lot of costs involved with continuing your education after high school. Tuition, and again, there's the spelling. My apologies. Tuition is basically the cost of your classes. Whether you are looking at a vocational school, that's an entire program, or a state college where you pay class by class, each class that you take has a cost involved with it. And then in addition to the class itself, there will be books involved. So you have to purchase the books. If you're going to live outside of home, you're going to have to pay for housing, whether it's your own apartment or if you're living in a residence hall on campus. The food that you eat while you're going to school, transportation that may get you to and from the school, and then technology. You may need a laptop, you may need a computer. All of these costs are involved in continuing your education after school. So these are things, again, it goes back to just having that conversation. Those of you that are parents, please talk to your children. Is there a plan in place to pay for higher education? Are you relying on your student to seek out financial aid and scholarships? Again, there is not a good or a bad scenario. You just need to know what it is. So if you are going to be seeking financial aid and scholarships, you want to start that now. The earlier, the better. There are actually scholarships out there that are available to freshmen. So if it is a family effort to go out and cover all these costs, the sooner you start relying on it, the better. I often share a story about a senior that I was working with in one of the high schools. We volunteer a lot on the schools, and this student knew he was going to Florida State University, and I couldn't convince him to apply to any other school. He had one school in mind, and he applied for it. And so then we started to talk about the costs, and he assured me that his family had a savings plan, everything was put aside, they were going to cover all the costs of tuition. Well, he was lucky and he did get accepted into the school of his dreams, but it wasn't until that acceptance letter came to the house that he actually had the conversation with his family about covering the costs of school. And the family expected him as a student to be able to look for scholarships and research financial aid. And he expected his family to be doing all the legwork and covering all the costs. So this acceptance letter came, I think it was December of his senior year. So that gave him a very short span of time to do all that research and look for scholarships and everything, which made it extremely stressful. He was able to cover the costs and he got to the school. But think about if he had had that conversation 2 years prior, it would have made a much less stressful situation when that letter arrived. So just the more you can talk about this and have those conversations and find resources, the better your student will be and the more enjoyable their senior year will be. So there are many funding opportunities out there. Scholarships and grants are basically money that will sponsor your education. They do not need to be paid back. Often they do have some kind of requirements attached to them. Maybe you have to continue to get a certain GPA in order to continue to get a scholarship. A grant may have a certain number of classes required that you have to take. So if you do get a scholarship or a grant, you definitely want to read the fine print. You want to know, what do I need to keep this money and what do I need to maybe continue getting this? A lot of scholarships and grants are renewable as long as you follow the criteria. So you definitely want to look at the fine print. Now, loans have to be paid back. Sometimes, you know, the student loans, it definitely has a challenging perception these days, but student loans are not all bad. If you do need, maybe you have some scholarships and some grants, but you need a little bit more to meet those costs. Know that student loans can be adjusted. When you're offered a student loan, quite often that funding agency is looking at the total cost of attendance. They're looking at that tuition and living expenses and food and books. And so maybe they're going to offer you $10,000, but maybe you only need $2,000. So know that loans can be adjusted to just fit the amount that you need to take. Like any type of financing, you just need to do your homework and be smart about loans. Make sure you're taking the most beneficial loans and only the amount that you need. Work study is basically an opportunity where your student can get a job on campus, and the funding may come from a federal financial aid agency or something. Work study jobs are great. They're on campus, they're convenient. Work study positions prioritize your academics over employment. So typically a work study student does not work during the week of exams. If it's a slow day at the job, a work study student is encouraged to bring their books and study, and you don't have to commute anywhere because you're already on campus. So work study is also a great way to continue to earn funding while you're taking classes. You have many resources at this point as a freshman in school. Your guidance counselors are there on campus. You want to take the opportunities to talk to them about college and any opportunities that they know. Pinellas County Schools website has great resources, especially with financial aid. If you go on the Pinellas County Schools website and just put in the search box scholarships or financial aid, it will give you a whole list of links from scholarship opportunities to federal financial aid, Bright Futures requirements. There's so much information on that site. They do a great job of providing resources. College websites. So the question that was asked earlier is, how do we find out what's the criteria was for the students who were just admitted? When you go on a certain college website, use the word admission. If you just put in admission into the search engine, most college websites will have a page that is all about college admission. It will tell you the average GPA that was accepted this fall, what was the average test score, what they're looking for in a student. So that is easily accessed. The state of Florida also has an admissions webpage where you can pull down all of the state schools in the state of Florida and give you that information. And we'll add that website into the chat as well for you. Right now, some of the high schools have college and career centers. I know there are plans to eventually get all the schools college and career centers. This is a fairly new initiative that's rolling out. But if you're attending Lakewood, Gibbs, Boca Ciega, Seminole, Osceola Fundamental, Pinellas Park, Eastlake, Clearwater, or Largo, These centers already exist on campus. So each center has just an array of resources that you can use to talk to about your college options, admission criteria, and funding sources. So definitely take advantage of that. And like I said, there's specific information that is geared to each year that you're at high school, so that when you're a senior, it's going to be a piece of cake. You're going to know where you're going to go, you're going to know what you need, and these centers can just guide you through each step of the way. And then there's us, path counselors. There are 3 path counselors now. We do classroom presentations, we hold workshops, we'll be holding summer events that you can participate in, and we volunteer in those college and career centers. Our website is listed on the screen. It is stpetersburg.usf.edu/path with an E at the end of it. Again, it stands for Pinellas Access to Higher Education. We also have an Instagram site, plan_your_path. This is a great, if you are all on Instagram, this is a great resource where we post scholarship opportunities that we come across, and we promote any of our events and our workshops. You can reach out to us on our website if you wanted to have a one-on-one consultation, if you're looking at a specific school and you want some help to navigate your path there. So we are here to help any students or parents in Pinellas County just help navigate the process, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or wherever you are in this path. And so I will take any questions at this point. I don't see any in the chat. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask any questions. I know we throw a lot of information at you. But no, I don't see any hands or any questions. So Danica, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So our next speaker will be Mrs. Vigu. She'll be discussing rigorous curriculum with us.
So I'm assuming people can see my screen with the PowerPoint on it?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm actually going to give you all a chance to take a little bit of a breath. Take 30 seconds, because you have heard about a lot of different information up to this point tonight. You might want to grab a piece of paper so that you can jot down any questions that you're thinking about. And then if I don't answer those questions at some point during this presentation, I am more than happy to take questions at the end of the presentation. So again, I'm Judith Vigu. I'm the Director for Advanced Studies with Pinellas County Schools. And in that role, I oversee a wide variety of things, including advanced placement, IB, ACE, dual enrollment, and AVID, among several other things, but those are probably the 5 biggest branches of my work. So if you have questions related to any of those things, then you could certainly reach out to me and I can get you to the right person if I'm not the best person to answer your question. Tonight, as we mentioned, we're going to talk about the rigorous curriculum opportunities that exist in our Pinellas County schools, high schools. And I would open with, as freshmen in high school, while you probably haven't decided on a college, you might have an idea of what college you want to go to, but you do need to be thinking now, as Sandy pointed out multiple times in her presentation, about the college admission process, simply because it's a competitive process. And so the types of things that you want to be able to demonstrate to a college are things like your determination to be successful and your determination to see through to the end the rigorous options that you do choose to partake in. That's going to show a lot of your potential to them. And it may even help you stand out in a particular degree program if you're taking advanced courses in a particular area, whether you are looking to head in a science direction or in humanities direction. The coursework that you choose to take can really help you stand out as you make an application to a particular degree program. The other thing that taking some of these rigorous courses will do for you over the course of time is reduce some of your college expenses. And I say some because many of these courses are beneficial to you for the admissions process and can articulate to college credit. But you as a student, once you choose a degree, may not need all of the different courses that you've taken in high school. So it's kind of a balance of knowing what direction you're going to go so that you can stand out in that particular degree program, but also understanding that some of those things are going to be elective credit in college, and there's only so much room for electives, just like in high school, there's only so much room for electives. So we're going to go ahead and move forward and start talking about course selection. So when you're thinking about college planning and as it relates to your course selection for high school, you need to be thinking about what core courses you're going to take and what other courses you're going to take. When we say core courses, we're thinking about the courses that will count for your high school graduation, but also have the potential to count as a core class in your degree program at college. For instance, an AP English language class or a Composition 1 class will fulfill a core requirement of that AA degree or a general education core requirement for those bachelor's degrees. There is a crosswalk that is available. So this link that you see in the PowerPoint right now, pcsb.org/page/1556. If you go to that website, you're going to see a link for a credit by exam course equivalency table. What that's going to allow you to do is look up different courses, different AP courses or ACE courses or IB courses to see if you score a certain value on the exam at the end of the course, what class does that satisfy at the college level? And I will give you a caution that this credit by exam course equivalency is only for the public universities and colleges in the state of Florida. So if you're going outside of the state university system or outside of the state college system, you would want to go to the college website to look into how they will count the credit for an AP exam or an ACE exam or an IB exam, or you can seek out the ACE site, the IB site, or the AP site, and they have some resources on their pages as well. When you're looking at that and when you're thinking about taking courses, the typical number of college credits that one of these courses counts for is 3 college credits. So if you take AP Statistics at your high school and you score a 3 on the AP Statistics exam at the end of it, by taking the course at your high school, you earn 1 credit for your high school graduation. But by getting a 3 on that AP exam, that equates to 3 college credits toward your bachelor's degree or Associate of Arts degree. So what kind of courses do we offer? In Pinellas County, we have a wide variety of rigorous courses. All of our high schools have honors courses in all of the core content areas, math, science, and English and social studies. Honors courses are essentially a deeper dive into the curriculum that you would get at the regular level, or an additional standard or 2 in comparison to what you would get in the regular level. So when we're talking about calculating grade point averages, honors classes carry an extra half weight. We also have AP courses at all of our high schools. And so that includes the 16 major high schools plus Richard O. Jacobson. And most of the high schools offer a little bit of everything that you see here. Jacobson, being a smaller setting, has fewer AP course offerings than our other schools, but generally speaking, at At the other 16 high schools, we have a wide array of AP courses that include the majority of what you see on this list. To find out what specifically is offered at your school, you should be getting your course request worksheets in the very near future, probably at some point in the month of January. And when you see those course request worksheets, you should have a listing of all of the AP courses available at your school on that worksheet. Things that should be included at every school will include AP Capstone Seminar and Research, which I'm going to dive into a little bit deeper later. AP Computer Science Principles is also a course offered at all of our schools, along with the art and design courses. The calculus courses, bio and chemistry, are offered at nearly every high school. Both of the English courses are offered at all high schools, and then you've got the Spanish language course that's offered at almost every school. Spanish literature offered at about half of our schools, and then all of those social studies courses are offered at most of our schools as well. So as I mentioned, it shouldn't matter what high school you go to, you should have access to a wide variety of advanced placement courses. Each of our high schools also has dual enrollment courses that they offer at their school, in addition to you having the ability to take dual enrollment courses at St. Petersburg College. And then, of course, we have ACE courses available to students at Clearwater High School, Hollins High School, and Tarpon Springs High School. Most of our conversation tonight is really going to center on AP and dual enrollment. And with that is a great segue, because we get this question a lot. How is advanced placement different from dual enrollment, or how are they similar? So by creating this table, my goal is to help you understand both the differences and the similarities. So for starters, when it comes to taking those courses, as far as your transcripts are concerned, regardless of what courses you take while you're in high school, the classes are going to show up on your high school transcript. So advanced placement classes will show up on your high school transcript. Dual enrollment classes will show up on your high school transcript, and they will be calculated into your high school GPA. Dual enrollment classes only are entered on your college transcript. So when you take an advanced placement class, you're taking a high school course for high school credit and then sitting for an exam at the end of the year to determine whether or not you can earn college credit. When you're taking a dual enrollment course, that course is counting for high school credit and college credit simultaneously. So whatever grade you come up with, it's going to show up on both transcripts. So in terms of curriculum, advanced placement is a standardized curriculum. It's the same curriculum for advanced placement US history, whether you take the class in New Hampshire or Indiana or Florida or over in Ireland. So advanced placement is standardized curriculum. It's the same regardless of where you take the course. Dual enrollment curriculum is locally defined curriculum. So the state of Florida Department of Education has standards for the college courses, just like they have standards for the high school courses. And the curriculum is defined by what the state of Florida says should be contained in each course. When it comes to the grades that you earn, or the way that the college looks at the credit that you've earned for advanced placement with standardized curriculum, comes that standardized test. So everybody that's taking that advanced placement US history course is sitting for the same exam in May. And therefore, regardless of where you reside, if you score a 4 on that exam, every college that sees it understands what that 4 means because they know what that standardized curriculum consists of. With dual enrollment classes, when you get that grade on your transcript, because that's locally defined curriculum and it's a teacher-controlled grade, that's something that may look very different from teacher to teacher and could also look very different from university to university. So just keeping in mind that the standardized piece is something that allows colleges to measure what you've done against what everybody else has done. And that dual enrollment piece is really a college looking at how you did in that one experience. And it's not the same for them to compare you to another student who had that same dual enrollment course at another college with a different instructor. As far as access is concerned, advanced placement is open access. So anybody who is motivated to take an advanced placement course and raises their hand and says, hey, I'd really like to take that AP Computer Science Principles course, I'm interested in learning more about that, can take it. With dual enrollment, there are minimum testing, GPA, and credit requirements that help determine whether or not you can take the classes. We'll talk more specifically about that in a minute. AP classes are only offered at your high school, while dual enrollment classes I mentioned there are some that are offered at your high school, and then there's a much larger array of classes that are offered for you at the SPC campus. Regardless of which option you choose, whether it's advanced placement or dual enrollment, there is no cost to the student. So Sandy talked a lot about the costs associated with going to college, but as a dual enrollment student, Pinellas County students have all of those costs covered for them by Pinellas County schools. So as long as you're in high school and you're taking dual enrollment classes, you will not have to pay tuition and you will not have to pay for textbooks because Pinellas County Schools pays for those for you. So no cost to student for either one of them. And I guess we'll move on to the next slide. So as we think about dual enrollment, because I know that there are some questions around that, the qualifications for taking dual enrollment at SPC. One of the questions that I heard asked earlier was, will I be able to take a dual enrollment class next year as a 10th grader? And the answer is you should absolutely be eligible for it, assuming that you meet these qualifications. First and foremost, you have to have at least 7 high school credits in the 4 core subject areas. So that's math, science, English, and social studies combined, 7 credits in those 4 areas. And then we can consider that a GPA that can be reviewed for qualification. So if you've got those 7 high school credits in 4 core subject areas, then we begin by looking at your high school GPA, unweighted, and making sure that it is at least a 3.0. And if you meet that, then the next thing that we look at is whether or not you have qualifying test scores on record. And those qualifying test scores could be PERT, ACT, or SAT scores. As a current 9th grader, more than likely it's going to be the PERT that you sit for. And there are limitations on how many times you can take the PERT. That limit is 2 times each semester. So if you haven't taken the PERT already, asking your counselor about that tomorrow would be a good thing to do if you're interested in dual enrollment, so that you can hopefully get signed up for the PERT before you leave for Christmas break. Because as soon as we hit January 4th, we're in a new semester, and that clock starts ticking on how many times you can take the PERT in second semester. So you can take it twice in each semester. You could take it once in the summer. Once you've earned your qualifying PERT scores, you don't need to go back and retake the PERT later on each time you want to take dual enrollment. Once you're in dual enrollment and you've got those qualifying scores, you're all set with that. And then the last piece would be that you need to have an SPC ID number, and that would be something that your counselor will put in focus for you, so that when you're taking dual enrollment classes, the SPC system and the PCS system can talk to one another and transfer grades and transfer scheduling information back and forth. The considerations that we ask you to make sure that you take into account before you decide to take dual enrollment, first and foremost, the college setting is a very different setting. So you want to make sure as a student or as a parent, you want to make sure that your student is prepared for what it's going to be like to be in that college setting if they're taking dual enrollment at the college. And by that, I mean, when you go into a classroom at the college, you are surrounded by traditional college students, and traditional college students are all ages and all sizes, right? So you could be sitting in between a 50-year-old man and a 20-year-old woman, right? Because college is accessible to anybody regardless of what age they are. And I ask students to think about that because sometimes they are caught off guard by that experience, especially if they take a course that's later in the day when more full-time working people are coming to the college for their classes. That tends to be when the older students are present in those classes. And for some students, that's a very natural setting, and it's fine. And for other students, it's very unsettling for them to have
Miss Figure, you suddenly went mute.
Better?
Yes, you're back. Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting because I never touched a keyboard. Did I lose you at the college setting?
Just towards the end of the college setting. Yeah, It was only just a few seconds.
Okay, perfect. So, just to reiterate, really just digesting what that might look like to sit in a classroom that is made up of students that aren't necessarily in your age range is something that you want to be prepared for. The second piece that I ask for students and parents to be really considerate of is that dual enrollment, because the grades are going on both a high school transcript and a college transcript, it's really important for you to understand that you're developing both of those, right? A low dual enrollment course grade on your high school transcript probably isn't going to have a huge impact on your GPA because you've got so many other high school classes on that transcript. But when we think about your college transcript and you start taking dual enrollment, that first or second dual enrollment class that you take has a tremendous impact on your college GPA because it's pretty much the only thing on your college transcript. So you need to be really dedicated and committed to the course if you're going to take a dual enrollment class, because you absolutely need to be successful with it. You need to score, you need to get a grade of an A or a B in order to set yourself on a positive path with your college GPA. If you are unsuccessful, that can have some really negative implications essentially for your financial aid opportunities and for your college admission opportunities at the end of high school when you're moving on and you're applying to go to college. There is a plethora of information at the St. Petersburg College website, and you can see the link here. If you go to the St. Pete College website, spcollege.edu, and you put in the search bar high school programs, you will get to the dual enrollment page rather quickly. All right. Within dual enrollment, we have some full-time programs that it would be good for you to be aware of because of future years, not next year. You wouldn't, as a ninth grader, you would not be eligible for these things next year. But I want to plant this seed so that next year at this time, you're thinking about whether or not you want to consider early college, for applying for early college at this time next year so that you can join it in the 11th grade. So we do have two full-time programs for college. One is called early college, the other is called early admission. They are very similar in nature, but there are some slight differences. One of the similarities is that by full-time, we mean that you would attend all of your classes at the college. You wouldn't go to your high school for anything during the traditional school day. You'd still be able to go back to your high school to participate in athletics and other clubs and activities outside of the school day, but you would attend all of your classes at the college. So for early college, it is a 2-year program. You would make application during this time period next year in your 10th grade year. And if you were accepted, then you would attend early college for all of 11th grade and all of 12th grade. And through that experience, you would walk away with not only a high school diploma, but also your AA degree complete by the time you graduate high school. Early admission is just a 1-year program. So if you're loving the high school experience and you want to stick with it through 10th and 11th grade, but then you decide you want to go on to that full-time college experience, you could be applying for early admission at this time in your 11th grade year so that if you're admitted, you can attend early admission in your 12th grade year. More and more of our early admission students are earning AA degrees each year, and that's because several of them are taking some of these other taking advantage of some of these other opportunities when they're at their high school in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. And by other opportunities, I mean the dual enrollment classes that are available to them at their high school and or the AP classes that are available to them at their high school. Qualifications for getting into early college or early admission start out the same way as regular dual enrollment. You need to have that qualifying unweighted GPA. You need to have qualifying test scores in all areas, reading, writing, and math. You also need to have credit in biology, geometry, world history, and hope, because those are classes that there is no dual enrollment class that you can take that would be the equivalent of that for your high school graduation requirements. So in order to get admitted into early college or early admission, you have to have already met your biology, geometry, world history, and hope requirements. You also need to have met your assessment requirements for graduation. So for this particular group of ninth graders, I know the assessment requirements are in transition. This will be our last year of the FSA ELA test. And so we can revisit this next year when you're back on this presentation and we've got more concrete information about what you'll be taking as a 10th grader. The other qualification to get into one of these full-time programs is to have a qualifying college GPA. And so your college GPA would need to be at least 2.0. If you take on some dual enrollment classes as a 10th grader, those dual enrollment classes are what would be formulating that college GPA that we'd be looking at to make sure that you meet the requirements. And then within each semester in these programs, students are required to take at least 15 college credits, and that's typically 5 classes, 5 college classes, and then a seminar course that is taught by a Pinellas County Schools counselor. That seminar course consists of lessons around career interest stuff and determining what career path you might want to travel down, tying that career path to majors at the college level, and then tying those majors at the college level to schools that offer those so that you can narrow down what schools you might want to make application to and campuses that you might want to visit. There's also attendance and behavior expectations that go along with being an early college or an early admission student. And that is basically that you are conducting yourself as a young adult should conduct themselves, and that you are attending each and every class, whether we're talking about the college classes or whether we're talking about the seminar class, you're expected to be at every one of them. And as I mentioned, students who attend these full-time programs do remain enrolled at their high school. And that gives them the ability to continue to participate in athletics, to be part of all of the senior activities and graduation, to be part of other clubs and activities like National Honor Society. The one thing that you cannot do if you join early college or early admission, you cannot be considered for valedictorian or salutatorian. But all other things you would still have access to at your high school. Many of you may be at a high school that is not your zoned high school because you are in a district application program, like maybe the criminal justice program at Pinellas Park, or the Excel program at Largo High School, or the IB program at St. Petersburg High School. If you're in one of those programs and you're attending a high school that is not your zoned school, you do stay enrolled at your current school when you join early college or early admission. And that's so that you have the same peer group and that you're involved in athletics with or in activities with, and that you get to enjoy those high school activities with the students that you've built community with up to that point. So other course information from my perspective, as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the areas that I'm responsible for is AVID, and the AVID elective is a class that we would encourage students to take if they feel like they want some type of layer of support for being successful in these rigorous courses. In the AVID elective, 2 days a week are dedicated to tutorials, and that really gives a student an opportunity to bring in with them something that they're struggling in and obtain some support from their peers and from college-age tutors who are coming into the classroom with us to work through those points of confusion and gain a better understanding in those areas so that they can be more successful in those classes. The other piece that the AVID elective provides is developing the skills that are necessary for academic success in college. The analogy I like to make is that taking the AVID elective is a lot like learning how to pack your parachute and pull a ripcord so that when you jump out of the plane, you know when and how to pull that ripcord so that you have a soft landing, right? So it's kind of like the difference between when you're going off to college and it's such a different atmosphere from being in high school. You don't want the first time that you take rigorous courses to be in college, because if it is, then it can be very intimidating. It can be a little bit difficult to make the adjustment to that level of rigor. And so we're hopeful that students will take advantage of the rigor in high school so that they're more comfortable with it in college. And if AVID is the layer of support that they need to build that skill set so that they can be successful on their own with that transition, then we're there for you. The other pieces that happen in the AVID elective are college search and application support and scholarship search and application support. And I think those are two of the things that we hear our AVID elective students talk about in depth when they get to their junior and senior year, and how helpful that layer is for them. The other piece that I wanted to highlight is AP Capstone. When I talk about AP courses, I think most people get a sense of what is meant when we say AP Statistics or AP Calculus or AP English Literature. Those are all pretty self-explanatory. But when we say AP Capstone and we talk about AP Seminar or AP Research, those are courses that by their title seem very vague. And so I wanted to make sure that I highlighted those a little bit, more so because they're relatively new courses. They've only been around for about a half dozen years, and they aren't self-explanatory, right? So the way Capstone was created, it was created because colleges were very impressed with the content knowledge that their students were coming in with when they took AP courses. But they felt that the students that they were receiving at the college level with all of that content knowledge from AP courses lacked a certain skill set, and those skills were really around their critical thinking and their ability to synthesize information and communicate things in a productive manner. So understanding fundamental argumentation, understanding basic research skills of being able to delineate the difference between a valid source and an invalid source, being able to communicate both electronically and verbally delivering information. So those are the skills that the colleges were asking for students to come in more developed. The two courses are Seminar and Research, and they were developed with that skill set in mind. In the AP Seminar course, it's not neither of these courses are traditional AP courses where you just have an exam at the end that determines your college credit. So AP Seminar is the first of the two courses, and they have to happen in this order. In AP Seminar, there are three different pieces that determine your AP exam score. The first two pieces are performance tasks. You have one performance task that you do with a group, and that involves researching the same topic through different lenses and then developing a common report on it and then delivering that report to your classmates. The second performance task takes what you did as a group to develop your skills and asks you to do something very similar but individually. And then there is an end of course assessment that is essentially an argumentation essay. So three different pieces that get scored, and those three scores combine to make your overall AP exam score that determines whether or not you're eligible for college credit. Then from there, you move on to the AP Research class, and essentially AP Research is a year-long project where you develop original research and you write a formal paper and defend your findings. So it gives you an entire year to select your topic, narrow down what your research question is, perform some actual research, write your paper that includes your conclusions, and then provide a presentation that defends your findings. Like here's what I found through all of my research, and here's how I know that that's valid. So it can really set you apart in the college admission process, because we've had several students who have talked about sharing in their college essay what their AP research project was and being able to articulate what that experience consisted of for them. So that piece by itself allows you to distinguish yourself a little bit in that process. But along with that, AP Research and Seminar, when you score a 3 or better on both of them, you can earn an AP Capstone certificate. If you score a 3 or higher on both of those and you score a 3 or higher on 4 other AP exams, you can earn an AP Capstone diploma. And the AP Capstone diploma is often considered to be something in line with an IB diploma or an ACE diploma. So it gives you a much greater way to stand out in that college admission process. And for whatever it's worth, if I had a child of my own and they were thinking about taking AP courses, I would want them to take these 2 AP courses. First and foremost, I would want them to prioritize these 2, because the skill set that's being learned through and acquired through these 2 courses is second to none, and definitely transfers well to success at the college level. So that's the information that I wanted to share with you this evening. You can see on the screen my email address is town-viguj@pcsb.org. You also have my telephone number, 588-6466. I am happy to field any general questions right now. And if you have more questions that are more personal in nature, I'd be more than happy to respond to them in email or via telephone at some point at a later date, whether that's tomorrow or even after your holiday break, when you come back and you're starting to think more seriously about the course selection process for next year. So again, my email address is town-viguj@pcsb.org, and my telephone number is 588-6466. So if there are general questions that anybody has at this point, I would be more than happy to answer those.
Okay, Mrs. Bixby, we have a few questions. So the first one is it possible to graduate high school with an AA doing dual enrollment classes?
Absolutely. We actually do have a handful of students who each year have, between their AP classes and their dual enrollment classes, are able to obtain that AA degree. It takes some really strategic planning. So if that's something that you're looking at doing, I would strongly encourage you, when you take your very first dual enrollment class, to sit down with an SPC advisor and map out between AP scores and dual enrollment classes how you can get to that AA degree completion.
Thank you. The next question that's in the chat is, do all 9th graders take PERT?
No, all 9th graders do not take PERT. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in that, to have that conversation with your counselor. There are some schools that will, so it's a little bit different at each school. Some schools will set up the course selection process so that students can indicate that they're interested in dual enrollment, and then they'll test every student who indicates interest in dual enrollment. Other schools will ask students to take the PERT test first before they can enroll, before they can register for a dual enrollment class. So you're going to want to make sure that you speak directly with your counselor to find out what that process is at your high school.
And then our next question was, what were the 4 core areas again?
Math, science, English, and social studies. You need to have a total of 7 credits in those 4 core areas combined, and then look at your high school GPA and make sure that the unweighted GPA is at least 3.0.
And then we have a few more questions that have come in. Can you do dual enrollment and still stay in the ACE program?
Yes, actually, we have several ACE students who are taking the ACE classes that they need to take for that progression, but they also have room to add a couple additional classes to their schedule, and dual enrollment classes are what some of them opt to take. I will say that it's important to note that students taking dual enrollment classes are limited to 6 college level classes at a time. So if you're taking 4 ACE classes, you would have room for 2 dual enrollment classes each semester.
Okay, our next question is, do students in dual enrollment only take classes in fall and spring, or can they take them in the summer as well?
Students in dual enrollment classes can also take summer classes. It's typically 1 class in the summer if you're a first-time dual enrollment student, and 2 classes in the summer if you are a continuing dual enrollment student.
Okay, and then for the 7 credits, if English 1 was taken in 8th grade, does it count towards the 7, same as algebra?
Yes. So anything that's on your high school transcript, English, math, science, and social studies count toward those 7 credits.
And then what is the difference between dual enrollment and St. Pete Collegiate?
St. Petersburg Collegiate is a charter high school, so it's a separate school altogether. Those students take dual enrollment classes, but they are not affiliated with Pinellas County schools. So if a student is going to St. Pete Collegiate High School, they are no longer affiliated with whatever high school they're presently attending. So they won't be participating in clubs and activities at their current high school. They won't be participating in graduation activities or senior activities at their current high school.
Thank you. Those are all the questions that are in the chat so far. If anyone else has any questions, please feel free to add them to the chat, or feel free to turn on your microphone and ask the question verbally. Okay. I'm not seeing any more come up at the moment, but as Ms. Viggy shared, she did provide her contact information if you would like to reach out to her privately. And then I will also make sure to share that information in the email that is sent out following this workshop as well. So thank you again, Mrs. Viggy, for joining us this evening. We appreciate the vast amount of information that you have in relation to dual enrollment and AP courses. We recognize the importance of getting this information out as early as possible. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night, everybody.
You too. And now we are going to have Charlene Ajmang join us. She'll be telling you how to use all this information now. We recognize that when talking about college, because it's in 4 years, it feels like it's not useful at the moment, or maybe you can't act on certain things in the moment. So she'll be able to share some tips and some things that you can do as a checklist right now to ensure that as you are a freshman in high school, you can start to do this work now.
Thank you. Yes, again, I know that we have shared a lot of information today, and we're going to continue doing that. And what I'll do right now is just share a couple things that you can do to create somewhat of a ninth grade checklist. Of course, taking into account some of the information that we learned today and some other resources that we'll be sharing. This is just a really quick overview of some of the things you can do right now to start getting prepared. So similar to what you've heard throughout the many presentations today, we really recommend that ninth grade students meet with their high school counselors, start taking some of those challenging classes, begin the process about learning about college, get involved in a lot of different activities and then side of the community as well. We also encourage you to start exploring those options and then really begin that process of keeping record and keeping track of all of these different things, credentials, activities. And the most important thing is to begin, if not already, those conversations and discussions with not only your peers, but your family, your parents, and different people that would be a part of this journey to preparing yourself for college, and then also in the decision-making process. So if you have not already, become comfortable and become acquainted with your high school guidance counselor. So they are a very great resource for you within your high school, and getting to know them early on as you are a freshman and then often into your sophomore and junior and senior years, you'll learn that they have a lot of resources to share and can make it easier to talk about that process of planning for the rest of that high school career, the college option choice and decision-making process, and then just a different job than fields that are out there. Each school, if you're not already familiar with your guidance counselor, if you go to your Pinellas County School Board Clever account, you can go and see who your counselor is or find the contacts for the different advisors and guidance counselors at your high school. So just stop by or send them an email, say hello, and get acquainted with them, because like we mentioned, they really are a great resource while you are in the school every day. You just heard so many opportunities to take some different courses and really supplement the different classes that you'll have to take to prepare you to go into college. But if you're not interested or able to do that, still make sure that you're taking the most challenging courses that are still realistic so that you're eligible to manage it and get good grades, because you really want to set yourself up to be successful in college. And one way you can do that is starting by taking those challenging courses or dual enrollment, like Judith, you just shared so much information about. But yes, start taking challenging courses. If a class is too easy, see if there are other courses or ways you can really challenge yourself. So that way, when you do enter into that college space, you have a better ability to kind of take and handle that class load and or those courses. Starting to learn about the college experience or just learning about college. You've already taken that step in coming to the Freshman Workshop today, but there's other ways you can do it. Like Charlotte has shared, the internet is one of the best ways to get information or to even start asking some questions that you may not feel comfortable asking someone else. But a resource that I always like to share is the Florida Shines website. And if you give me a moment, table. It looks like this. If you have not had the opportunity to visit it already, this is a great resource that helps you learn a little bit more about colleges and then also different ways you can prepare to enter into it. So if you go, it's just floridashines.org, and the website has a lot of different resources that you can use even in your downtime to explore institutions, get ready for college like you're doing right now. And what's also really cool is that they have different checklists or tips and resources depending on your grade level. So as a ninth grader, you can come here and see that there are some things that you can do to start getting prepared. So like you can see here, similar to the things that you've learned in this workshop, you can take those challenging courses and just see the different things throughout that college journey that you can do to really prepare for college. They also talk about all of the different institutions within the state. Again, that information about, GPA, test scores, average test scores for the incoming classes. You can find that here. And also, it does talk about a lot of the things that we shared today as well. So keep this website in your back pocket as well as PATH's information. And then, of course, the resources that we will share after today's workshop. Another thing you could do right now is getting involved in different activities, extracurriculars, clubs, sports, and right now is a great time to get involved in community service or volunteering opportunities. This is a really good time to start testing things out to see what you like, and you can kind of get an early decision or an early understanding of yourself and some of those things that you might be interested in that will help guide your decision-making process and preparation for college. Also, you'll make friends, and then these are also great things to include on resumes, applications, essays, and recommendation letters to the different colleges and places you may be attending. And then as you're doing that, make sure you keep track of it. So make sure that you're keeping a record of all of those credentials. Those include your classes that you're taking, the different grades that you have. You may even want to start keeping track of some really cool projects that you have if you're interested in going to, let's say, an art institution or into an art course. You may want to start creating or keeping track of all of the different pieces of art that you make or different, websites that you've helped design. So that way, when it does come time to start applying to college, you have a great database or a great pile of things to pick and choose from to really showcase you as a student, your interests, and why you might be a great fit for that school. And it makes it so much easier because, again, it can come by really fast. And to have this information now will help you remember it for when that time comes. And then, again, start having these discussions. Talk with your family, talk about their jobs, talk about what you think you'd want to do, just so that when the time to make some important decisions come, you both are prepared or everyone is prepared and have a great understanding as to what other people's expectations are. So that way it's a lot less stressful and you can really enjoy those last few moments in high school. So start having those conversations now. And then some of those things you can discuss, your hopes, your fears. I always like to ask people what their interests are and how they got there, or having an understanding as to what they think is good for me versus what I think is good for me. And then also make sure that you're honest, that you really share how you're feeling and or what you're thinking, because this again allows you to have that better sense of understanding between everybody who's a part of this process for you. And then always talk about that money piece. Sandy shared that story earlier. It always sticks out in my head because that's also an important factor as you're getting prepared through high school to go to college as well. So just to recap, meet with your guidance counselor, start taking those challenging classes, make sure that you're learning about college and what it's like and the different options that you have. Get involved, not only in school, but outside of school, whether that's clubs, sports, volunteering, and then start exploring options about careers. That occupational handbook is a great resource as well, talking to your family, your friends, people who you think have cool jobs to get that inside scoop, and then keep track of it all. And then above all else, start having those discussions, talk and communicate with not only your family, but the different people who have resources and are going on this journey with you. But with that being said, do we have any further questions? And thank you, Charlotte, for including the information in the chat as well for the occupational handbook. I think you're on mute, Danica.
If there aren't any questions at the moment, I would like to tell you all a little bit more about the PATH program, who we are, what we do, and how we make things like this happen and why. So I'm going to share my screen. Apparently it's been a late day, so I accidentally hung up, but I'm still here. So give me 1 second, and I'm going to share my screen. So as we mentioned, we are the PATH program. There are 3 of us, as well as our assistant director. We are all employed by the University of South Florida St. Petersburg campus. But the reason why we are the PATH program and we do what we do is our mission is to provide equitable, flexible, and attainable pathways to promote access to higher education for all students in Pinellas County. And our vision is to increase the number of students who are attaining post-secondary degrees and other credentials in Pinellas County, therefore creating avenues of economic mobility for students, filling skills gaps, meeting workforce needs, and then improving the overall economic health of Pinellas County. So with that being said, we work very closely with St. Petersburg College. When possible, we also try to bring in Pinellas Technical College as well as other higher education institutions within the Pinellas County area to provide all of the ways that students can be educated beyond high school in Pinellas County. And so the ways that we do that is by being a resource. So similar to today, we provide college access information to students regardless of their intended college. In addition to this workshop, next semester we'll have workshops that are focused solely on, we'll have a financial aid and scholarship information workshop. We'll do a workshop on college entrance exams, so talking about the ACT and the SAT in a little bit more detail. We'll talk about college admissions in a bit more detail. In those conversations, we like to be able to bring out an admissions recruiter from various schools to kind of tell you in real time what are their requirements and what they're looking for in the students that they are admitting. We'll also do one on one for high school seniors who maybe are still planning and figuring out what life looks like after high school. And then we'll have a workshop for our juniors who will be preparing to apply for college at the end of the school year. So we will continue to have these workshops, and we will make sure to get that information about these upcoming topics to you all, because we recognize that sometimes you just want to get information about very specific topics and maybe not the general overview. But in addition to our virtual workshops, we also volunteer at the Pinellas County Schools College and Career Centers. We also do workshops and presentations in the high school. So your students, or if you are a student, may have seen us in a virtual presentation or maybe even at your school, as well as do college fairs around the area. Outside of providing general college access information, we also offer a 2+2 program. So we help students who want to start at St. Petersburg College and then proceed to transfer to University of South Florida St. Petersburg campus. For those students, we offer individualized support and student success workshops, and then we also provide them with scholarship opportunities both at SPC and at USF St. Pete campus. So that's pretty much what we do and why we do it. These are all of our contact information. So you see myself, Sandy, as well as Charlene. Here are our phone numbers and our email addresses. So like Sandy mentioned, we do individual consultations or conversations. So if you would like to have a further conversation about you, or if you're a parent, your child's plans for after high school, or kind of just navigating what this process looks like, please feel free to contact any of us. We'd be more than happy to schedule a meeting with you. And then outside of that, there is our website. You can check us out on Facebook. And then Sandy also mentioned that we have an Instagram page. I recognize that because I'm presenting, you may not be able to see it, but it's plan_your_path on Instagram. And so we share tips for high school students. We also share scholarship information that we come across. So if you just want to get things as you're scrolling through your Instagram feed, that is a great way to do so. And with that being said, that pretty much wraps up our workshop for the evening. So I'm going to ask that if you take a few moments to take our survey, move that again. You can use your camera on your phone to click the QR code, and then I'll also share it in the chat as well. By completing the survey, it lets us know how we did, what went well, what can be improved. We want to make sure that as we continue to provide these workshops for you all, that we're taking into account what works best for parents and for students, because without you all, this doesn't happen, and we want to make sure that we're providing you with timely and accurate information that is reflective of what you need at this time. So that is pretty much it for today's workshop. But again, if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to ask them either in the chat or by turning on your microphone. Give me 1 second as I pull up the survey link to put in the chat.
It is in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much. But yeah, I want to reiterate that we really appreciate you all taking time out of your evening today. We recognize that it's December. There's a lot happening with the holidays quickly approaching. This is the last week of school. And beyond that, this is usually the time where students are doing homework or getting ready for dinner. So we really appreciate you stopping to hear the information that we had to provide this evening about all the topics related to preparing for college as a high school freshman. So thank you. And as one more reminder, this workshop was recorded. Our plan is to have it posted to YouTube, ideally by the end of this week. But we are all very excited to be on vacation as of Friday. So if we're not able to get it uploaded by Friday, we will do our best to get it to you in a timely manner so that you have access to all the topics that were covered in the workshop, as well as all the links that were discussed. Thank you. We look forward to it. We definitely look forward to it.